Hey guys, Hikari here, and this chapter Black Clover actually starts with the Black Bulls sort of arguing with each other, not really knowing exactly what happened to Asta, but of course we see that Vice Captain Nacht kind of comes in to, steal the show and kind of tell them of exactly what's been going on in the Clover Kingdom. So he basically tells them, to listen up, and he instantly goes in and he tells them that Asta is dead and that he was mortally wounded and most likely erased by spatial magic, and that, it's reasonable to assume that he has passed away. We get to see a small pan over of all of the Black Bulls members, and we see that they're honestly very mortified at the fact that he might have passed away. We even see that Gray is saying, this can't be, there's no way that he's actually passed away. And we actually see Magnus saying that, he wouldn't forgive him if he actually went out on his own and passed away. So everybody's kind of not believing the fact that he's most likely gone. And we actually then see that even Nacht kind of shares the sentiment, since he says, the facts are the facts, and he might actually be gone, but he says that he's not really going to believe it unless he really sees his body. He's not going to believe that Asta's gone until he sees it with his own two eyes. And everybody else really does share the sentiment, and even Magnus saying, this is like one of the first things I really agree on with you, saying that, I'm assuming they kind of don't really like each other's, but right now, of course, he's saying something that's very true, that they're gonna have to see Asta's body in order to believe the fact that he is gone. So they all group up together, and we see that Nacht is saying, it's unanimous, let's go find that idiot. And they're saying yeah, and we see that they're going out on a trek to try and find Asta wherever he is. So they don't really tell us exactly how they're going to accomplish this, but they do have a lot of members on the team that can really help out in that endeavor. So they're going to try to find Asta, but this is where we lead into the next part of the chapter, where we see where Asta actually ended up. The chapter starts off with Asta in a room by himself, and he gets up and he's asking, where is this place? Where am I at right now? And we see that there's a little person, we're assuming, that's sitting there with some tea, and Asta kind of realizes that she kind of looks kind of similar to Charmy, at least like very similar size and the same dark hair, but we see that she drops coffee from her mouth, and Asta's kind of amazed that, the fact that she was able to do this. And we see somebody come in saying that's a tea serving doll, and we see this person looks very similar to Yami, and he's saying, how are you feeling, Asta? He already knows Asta's name, but this dude is very similar to Yami, except he has an eye patch, and that eye patch is actually one of the sword guards. So this dude is very interesting, a very cool design, and we don't really learn too much about him in the chapter, honestly, but he seems like a very cool person, and it seems like we're going to be very amazed when we do learn a lot more about him and who exactly he is. Getting back into the chapter though, we see that even Asta's kind of like, who are you and how do you know my name and everything, and he's looking at his wound and he's like, how is my wound already healed? These type of wounds would have only really been able to get healed by someone like Mimosa. Asta even then asks him, did you heal me? And he's like, no, it wasn't me, but it was somebody else that actually healed you from here. And we see Asta kind of react to everything that's going on, asking where's Alib, and they're actually saying, that we're taking care of that little devil. So he honestly does know like what a devil is too. So this dude seems to know a lot more than he possibly should, and I don't know if it's something to do with his eye or something, or if just in general the area that they're at has a lot of knowledge about the rest of the world, but he seems to be very knowledgeable in a lot of different things. Even Asta acknowledges the fact that he kind of knows what devils are, so he asks him again, do you know who Charmy is? And he then reacts by saying, I haven't met that one, but I have known Yami since childhood. So it's kind of weird how he says I haven't met that one instead of saying I haven't met her. So it kind of sounds like he's met other people, or he knows of other people on the Black Bulls, he just hasn't specifically seen Charmy. So it's just really weird the fact that he really knows all of this information when he really shouldn't, if they're in a country that is so far away. But we're gonna get more into exactly where this country is, or what the country is, at the end of the chapter. Asta then reacts by even saying the fact that, whoa, you guys are childhood friends, it's crazy. And he even reacts by saying that their ki does seem very similar, and he even asks Asta if Yami still takes those really long dumps, and of course Asta throws him under the bus completely and says that he does. So really funny, the fact that that's one of the main thing that he remembers about Yami after so many years, since technically it's been over 17 years, I think, since he's really seen Yami, since Yami left there, supposedly he says when he was 13, and Yami's about 28, so 28, like 30 maybe now, since like there has been a couple years past since the beginning, so it's been like 17 years. He even then tells Asta a lot of different things about Yami that only someone that really does know about Yami would know about, how he doesn't like bugs, about how he has a really mean look in his face. So, he knows a lot of different things about Yami, so it kind of gives validity over the fact that he probably was childhood friends with him. And throughout all of this, we see that there's this one girl in the room, and she doesn't say anything throughout the entire chapter, but she does look very interesting, and I think she's going to play a big role possibly in Asta's training moving forward in the arc, since we do get confirmation that Asta is going to be training moving forward. Asta then starts talking to the man, saying that, he lost track of time and that he's very thankful for them helping him, but he has to go back, and he has to go back really fast, of course, in order to fight Lucius and all of the other devils that he has under his control. But we see that the new person actually says that you're not really in the best shape to go after Lucius right now. He then perfectly somehow gives Asta a recap of exactly what happened to him, saying that, you got your heart broken by the person that you like, you got defeated by the person that you kind of had as a goal. He had Julius as somebody that he really looked up to and really wanted to become like, of course, the Wizard King, and he wanted to be a good Wizard King like how he viewed Julius, but of course he kind of got betrayed, quote unquote, by that person, since he doesn't really know about the fact that they have two personalities. So right now, everybody's just assuming that Julius himself kind of went rogue. We see that Asta again is concerned about the fact that this dude just knows way too much than he really should. He knows way too much about Asta's situation than would be possible for somebody that hasn't even been in the Clover Kingdom with them. So Asta's kind of saying, how do you know all of that? And he's kind of very confused. We see exclamation points, question marks, how do you know everything about this? And we see that the guy says that, I can see whatever I want to, and he says, besides, my eye also tells me that you're definitely going to lose if you return right now, which I do think is going to be the case. I don't think Asta's going to make it through any part of fighting with Lucius again if he doesn't go through some sort of training arc. He then tells Asta that it doesn't really look like he would have had any other way to get back home anyway, since Asta doesn't really have his swords, he can't really fly, and he most likely doesn't even know exactly where he would be going. But obviously this is kind of Asta, just saying that he wants to leave, but he definitely does realize the fact that he kind of has no way to get there. But then we see that the girl actually opens one of the windows to reveal exactly where they are, and we get confirmation, and this is kind of what I was saying last week, that this was most likely going to be the case, but Asta is in the land of the sun. And we see that the guy actually introduces himself as Ryuya, and he says that he's the shogun of this land, and he tells Asta that since you've come all this way, all this way over to this kingdom, that you should get yourself a power-up. So we kind of get confirmation that Asta is going to be training in this country, and I think it's just very cool that this is actually the country that Yami comes from. And I think that might actually explain exactly what happens with him kind of knowing everything about Asta without Asta even really saying anything. I think this might be some sort of a very advanced key, and it would make sense that this key is going to be completely different from what Yami taught Asta, since the key that Yami taught Asta is still very good, and that has helped Asta so much throughout his different fights in the series. And we see that Asta really is appreciative of the fact that Yami kind of gave him that. But obviously I think this key in this country is going to be very similar or very different from the key that Yami knows, since Yami left the country very early on in his life and probably wasn't able to learn advanced forms of it. So I think the key that his childhood friend has is what like the country kind of has at a base level. They learned this very advanced version, and this is kind of just them kind of flexing it right now over Asta, and Asta doesn't even know this advanced level key exists. So that's going to be for another video though, where I'm going to kind of go into the different things I think Asta is going to learn throughout this arc. But I definitely do think high level key is going to be one of the main factors in him before he goes back to the Clover Kingdom. But definitely let me know what you guys thought of each chapter. I thought it was a very good chapter. It was very amazing, and Tabata went very crazy with this, and a lot of people are saying this is very similar to kind of Wano being revealed, but I think it's very cool though, and it really is different. We've known that Yami comes from the land of the sun, and obviously from hearing the words land of the sun, it's going to look a lot like Japan. But definitely a great chapter. Let me know what you guys thought, and like the video if you liked it, and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every one of you guys for sticking by and watching all of my videos. Also follow my socials, as I have a TikTok and a Twitter. Follow those. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm out. Peace.